Why do you lose money in the stock market? Is it because you don't know enough strategies? Is it because you don't watch enough news? No. You lose money because you have a heart. You feel fear when you lose. You feel greed when you win. You are biological machinery designed to fail in the markets. But what if you could turn it off? What if you could sever the connection between your brain and your emotions? That is exactly what a gamer named CIS did. He took $15,000 and turned it into a $160 million empire by becoming a best loser. This is not a story about luck. This is a case study on mental zero. If you want to know what it takes to trade at the highest level, you have to look into the mind of the man who feels nothing. If you walked into a specific small apartment in Tokyo in the year 2005, you would have seen a scene that looked completely ordinary. You would see a messy bedroom. You would see empty cups of instant noodles stacked on the floor. You would see comic books and video games scattered everywhere. And sitting in the center of this mess, wearing cheap pajamas, was a young man with messy hair staring blankly at a wall of computer monitors. To the outside world, he looked like a failure. He looked like a hikikomori, a recluse who refuses to leave his room. But if you looked closer at his screens, your heart would stop. That young man wasn't playing a game. He was moving more money with a single click of his mouse than most banks move in a week. This is the story of a man known only as CIS. He is a phantom. He never worked on Wall Street. He never wore a suit. He never read a single book on value investing. Yet, starting with just $15,000 of his own savings, he hacked the psychology of the stock market and turned it into a net worth of over $160 million. How is this mathematically possible? How does a gamer in his bedroom outperform the biggest hedge funds in the world? The answer lies in a concept called emotional zero. Today, we are going to enter his mind. We are going to learn how he turned the financial market into a video game and why his greatest weapon wasn't intelligence, it was the ability to feel absolutely nothing. To understand the miracle, you first have to understand the origin. Before CIS was a trader, he was an addict, not to drugs, but to video games. Specifically, fast-paced strategy games and shooters. For his entire teenage life, he sat in front of a screen pressing buttons. Most parents would call this a waste of time. They would say, "Go outside, learn a real skill." But they were wrong. CIS wasn't wasting time, he was training. In the world of video games, he learned the most dangerous skill a human can possess: speed without hesitation. When you are playing a game and an enemy appears, you don't stop to think. You don't analyze the situation. You react. It is pure instinct. If you hesitate for even half a second, you die. CIS rewired his brain to bypass the slow, logical part of the mind and act directly on reflex. When he finally discovered the stock market in his early 20s, he didn't see it as finance. He didn't care about the companies. He didn't care if Toyota was making good cars or if Sony was selling more TVs. To him, the stock market was just another multiplayer online game. The ticker symbols were the enemies. The price was the score. And his money? His money was just the health bar. He realized that the bankers on Wall Street were losing because they treated money like money. They were emotional. They were scared to lose. CIS had an advantage. He didn't care about the money. He only cared about the high score. But the journey wasn't a straight line to millions. Like every beginner, his first attempt was a disaster. When he started trading with his life savings of roughly $15,000, 3 million yen, he tried to do what everyone else did. He tried to be smart. He read the newspapers. He studied the company reports. He tried to use logic to predict the future. And the market crushed him. He lost money. He watched his savings bleed away. He felt the pain that every trader feels, the tightness in the chest, the sweat on the palms. He realized that logic doesn't work in the stock market. Why? Because the market is made of people, and people are stupid. People panic. People get greedy. The market is an ocean of irrational emotion. That is when the switch flipped in his head. He stopped trying to predict what should happen and started looking at what was happening. He threw away the newspapers. He stopped listening to the news. He developed a philosophy that is terrifyingly simple. Buy what is being bought, sell what is being sold. Imagine a school of fish. If the whole school turns left, you don't ask why. You just turn left instantly. If you stand there asking, why are we turning, you get eaten by the shark. CIS decided to become a fish. He decided to follow the flow of money with zero ego. If a stock was going up, he bought it. If it started to drop, he sold it instantly. No questions asked, no hope, no prayer, just pure, cold execution. Then came the day that would make him a legend. December 8, 2005, the day the Japanese stock market broke. It was a quiet morning in Tokyo. A trader at a massive bank, Mizuho Securities, made a typo, a fat finger error. He meant to sell one share of a company called JCOM for 610,000 yen, but by mistake, he entered an order to sell 610,000 shares for 1 yen. It was an impossible order. It was a mistake that should have been caught by the system, but it wasn't. The order went live. In seconds, the stock price of JCOM crashed. It went straight down. It was a glitch in the matrix. On the trading floors of the big banks, there was chaos. Men in suits were screaming. Managers were freezing in panic. They knew something was wrong, but they were too scared to touch it. They were paralyzed by the magnitude of the error. But in his dark bedroom, CIS was not paralyzed. He saw the price drop. He didn't know it was a mistake. He didn't care. He just saw a pattern on his screen. His gamer instinct kicked in. While the rest of the world hesitated, he attacked. Click, click, click. He started buying thousands of shares at the rock-bottom price. He was buying money for free. He didn't think, is this risky? He didn't think, what if I'm wrong? He just saw the opportunity and pressed the button. 10 minutes later, the market realized the mistake. The price rocketed back up. In those 10 minutes of chaos, while the experts were panicking, the gamer in the pajamas had made $34 million. He sat back in his chair. He took a sip of water. He didn't scream. He didn't call his friends. He just watched the number on the screen. He had just made enough money to retire for 10 lifetimes. But he felt nothing. It was just a high score. Most people think that making $34 million is the happy ending. They think the movie ends there and the hero walks into the sunset. But for a trader, the money is not the end. It is the beginning of a nightmare. CIS had conquered the market. He had proven that he could print money at will. But he soon realized a dark truth. When you disconnect your brain from your emotions to win at trading, you cannot just reconnect them when you turn off the computer. The mind control that made him rich started to bleed into his real life. The numbness didn't go away. He had $100 million, then $160 million. But he couldn't enjoy it. He couldn't feel the joy of buying a luxury car, so he didn't buy one. He couldn't feel the excitement of a vacation, so he stayed in his room. He became a ghost, a wealthy, powerful ghost trapped in a cycle of winning. We are going to break down the specific 3 golden rules of his strategy that you can actually use. We will explore the dark side of his isolation, and we will answer the ultimate question. Is it worth sacrificing your soul to become the master of the market? But luck can only get you so far. Luck can make you rich once, but luck cannot keep you rich for 20 years. To understand how CIS held on to his fortune while other lottery winners went broke, we have to look at his playbook. And the first rule in his playbook is an insult to everything you have ever been taught about money. Traditional wisdom, the wisdom of Warren Buffett and your grandfather, says, buy low, sell high. It sounds logical. You buy something cheap, wait for it to become expensive, and sell it. CIS says this is suicide. For a day trader, trying to find the bottom of a falling stock is like trying to catch a falling knife. You might catch it, but you are more likely to slice your hand open. CIS operates on a strategy that feels completely unnatural to the human brain. Buy high, sell higher. Imagine you are standing on the bank of a raging river. You see a heavy log floating in the water. The current is pushing it downstream at 100 miles per hour. The smart investor looks at the log and says, "That log is moving too fast. It has to stop eventually. I will stand in front of it and try to catch it." What happens? The current smashes him. He drowns. CIS looks at the log and says, "It is moving fast. I will jump in the water and swim with it." This is the core of his mind control. Follow the momentum. If a stock hits an all-time high, most people are terrified to buy. They think it's too expensive, it has to come down. CIS buys because it is expensive. The fact that it is high means people want it. The fear of missing out is driving the price up. He surfs the wave of human greed. He doesn't need to know where the wave ends, he just needs to be brave enough to ride it and smart enough to jump off before it crashes. But what happens when he is wrong? What happens when he jumps into the river and the current stops? This is where his mind control becomes a superpower. It is called the 3-second rule. We all have egos. When we buy a stock and it drops, our brain screams, "I am right. The market is wrong. It will come back up. I just need to wait." We hold on to the loss. We pray. We bargain with God. We refuse to sell, because selling means admitting we were stupid. CIS has no ego. He has replaced his ego with a survival reflex. His rule is simple. If the trade goes against me, I run away, immediately. He doesn't wait for a plan. He doesn't look at the news to see why it is dropping. If he buys at 100 and it goes to 99 and the momentum feels wrong, click, he is out. He describes it like touching a hot stove. If you touch a hot stove, do you keep your hand there and wonder, why is this stove hot? Maybe it will cool down in a minute. No! Your reflexes pull your hand away instantly to save your skin. CIS has trained his trading reflexes to be just as fast. He takes thousands of small losses, tiny cuts. But because he cuts them so fast, they never become fatal wounds. He famously said, "I am a professional at running away. That is why I am still here." He is the greatest coward in the market, and that makes him the greatest winner.
Now let's leave the charts and look at the man himself. We are talking about a man worth approximately $160 million to $200 million. With that kind of money, you could buy a private island. You could buy a fleet of Ferraris. You could eat gold leaf steaks for dinner every night. But if you saw CIS on the street, you would think he was a college student struggling to pay rent. He lives in a rented apartment. He doesn't own a car. He says chauffeurs are a waste of money and driving is a distraction. He wears sneakers that cost $50. His favorite meal is still instant noodles or a cheap bento box from the convenience store. Why? Is he stingy? Is he crazy? No, he is simply detached. This is the deepest philosophical lesson of his story. For CIS, money is not currency to buy things. Money is a score. If he started spending money on luxury, he would develop an attachment to his lifestyle. He would start getting used to the Ferraris and the penthouses. And once you are used to luxury, you become scared of losing it. If you love your expensive lifestyle, you will trade with fear. You will hesitate to take a loss because you are thinking about your car payment. By living like a monk, he keeps his mind free. He can lose $10 million tomorrow and his life wouldn't change at all. He would still eat noodles, he would still play video games. This makes him dangerous. You cannot hurt a man who wants nothing. He has realized that the game is more interesting than the prize.
So, where does this leave him? And what is the lesson for us? In a high-rise building in Tokyo, the sun is setting. The trading day is over. CIS turns off his monitors. The blue light fades. The room goes dark. He stands up, stretches, and walks to the kitchen to boil some water for his noodles. He has made more money today than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes. But his face hasn't changed. His heart rate hasn't changed. He is the master of the universe. And yet, he is just a guy in pajamas. The story of CIS is not a blueprint for how to get rich quick. If you try to play his game without his discipline, you will go broke. His story is a warning and a lesson. It teaches us that the market, and life itself, is a mirror. The market reflects your flaws back at you. If you are greedy, it destroys you. If you are fearful, it paralyzes you. If you have an ego, it humiliates you. CIS won because he shattered the mirror. He removed the human element. He became a machine in a world of emotional animals. He proved that to win the ultimate game, you must be willing to lose yourself in the process. The $160 million is real, but so is the silence in that room. CIS is still there today, watching the ticks, clicking the mouse, waiting for the next high score. Game over.